I was 19. All of my friends were in relationships and they'd come home from their dates, all giggly and happy. I wanted that. I wanted to experience what they were feeling. But every time I tried to get a boyfriend, it didn't work out. And I started to think maybe I wasn't attractive enough, or maybe something was wrong with me. One day I saw this ad on Instagram for a psychic who could help you manifest your desires. The ad said 100% success rate, and I thought, shit, maybe she can help me get a boyfriend. I reached out to her and she told me to come to her house for a reading. She lived an hour away. So I got in my car and I drove there. Her house was nice, but it was very dark inside. There were candles everywhere, like hundreds of them. It smelled like patchouli and weed. And as soon as I sat down, she started telling me stuff about myself. Stuff that was obviously online. And then she started telling me stuff that was completely false. Like you have 3 sisters and a dog named Max. I have no idea where she got that from. And then she told me that I needed to do a ritual to attract my soulmate. She said, I need you to bring a picture of your crush and a lock of his hair. And I thought, shit, I don't have a cut of my crush's hair, but I did have a picture of him. So I took it out of my wallet and I handed it to her. She took the picture and she put it under a candle. Then she looked at me and she said, I need you to take off your shirt. And I thought, what? This isn't part of the plan. I told her that I wasn't comfortable and I tried to leave, but she grabbed my arm and she wouldn't let me go. She said, if you want to attract your soulmate, you need to trust me. And I was scared because she was really creepy. And also, I wanted a boyfriend so badly. She told me to lay down on a table and then she started massaging my shoulders. And I swear to God, if she touched me one more time, I was gonna scream. Then she started whispering in my ear and she said, your soulmate is here. And I opened my eyes and I saw the most disgusting thing ever. Her husband, who was sitting in a chair the entire time, was watching us with the biggest grin on his face. He stood up and he walked towards me and then he started licking my face. I don't even want to tell you what happened next because it's so disgusting. But let us just say that I have been back to that house and I have seen that man since. The only good thing that came out of that experience was that I learned that I deserve better. If that's what a relationship feels like, then no wonder I've never had a boyfriend. Looking back, I'm so embarrassed. Why did I fall for that? But at the same time, I'm also really relieved. Because I didn't end up with some creepy old hag like that as my actual partner. I'm never gonna tell my daughter this story, by the way. I used to work at a hotel as a front desk clerk and one of our regular customers was this really hot guy that would come in every weekend, always alone, and one night, he asked me if I wanted to go have drinks with him. And of course, I said yes, because why not? He was cute, and I was young, and pretty, and naive. And we went out and we had a couple of drinks, and then he invited me back to his place, and I, of course, being the naive little slut that I was, said yes. When we got back to his place, it was really, really hot and heavy at first. Like, really passionate. And then he started telling me all these really weird stories about how he likes to collect things, and I thought he was just being cute and trying to be funny. But then he started getting really serious and he opened up this big black leather folder, and he showed me these Polaroids of these really gruesome things. I don't want to get too graphic, but there were body parts in these pictures. It was really bad. And then he started telling me about how he likes to make jewelry out of them. And I was so scared at this point. I tried to get away, but he was really strong, and he kept me there for like hours. And then finally I was able to get away and I ran to my car and I literally did unsleep for like 2 weeks. I was so freaked out. And then about a week later, I am at work and the phone rings, and it asks the police, and they asking me if I know this guy, and they have this description of him, and they like, do you know who this is? And I'm like, oh my God, because I recognized the voice immediately. I was like, yeah, I think I do. And then they're like, okay, well, we need to ask you some questions about a missing persons case. And I was like, oh my God, I knew it. I knew something bad happened to her. Because you see, when I went to his apartment, the girl that was there that I thought was his girlfriend, because he had told me over the phone that he was coming over to meet his girlfriend, and I thought that was really sweet. So I thought, oh, how cute. We'll have a girls' night in. But now I knew that wasn't his girlfriend. His girlfriend was probably dead. And so I told the police everything. I told them about the pictures. I told them about the stories. He told me all of it. And they thanked me and they said, you've been a great help. We're going to need to bring you in and get a statement from you. So I went in and I gave them a statement and then they let me go. And then 2 days later, I came into work and my manager was standing there and she was on the phone and she was crying. And then she hung up the phone and she came over to me and she goes, are you friends with this missing girl, Taylor? And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm sorry. What happened? She goes, she was found dead in his apartment. I was like, oh my God. And then the craziest thing happened. The creep that I had hooked up with, he had taken his own life. He killed himself. And in his pocket, he had this business card from the hotel. So the police had called the hotel and they were asking if we had any recent pictures of this guy because they needed to, release them to the public to try and identify him. And that's how they found out about me. And they were like, okay, we need to bring you in and ask you some questions. And I was like, oh my God, I knew it. They think I did it. So anyway, I had to go through the whole thing again with the police, which was just awful. And then they cleared me and everything was fine. But the weirdest part of the story is that after all of that, I never saw my manager again. I never saw her after that day. But last year, out of the blue, I get this email from her. And the email is super weird because she's like, "Hey, I haven't spoken to you in a while. How are you? You know, I think about you often. I have a proposition for you that I think you'll really like." And I was like, what the hell? What does this mean? And then she never emailed me again. My freshman year of college, I had a really bad hookup. It was so bad that I'm still kind of traumatized by it. And it makes me wonder if anyone else has ever had a hookup quite as bad as mine. So I was 18 years old and I had just started college. I was super excited to have my first real taste of freedom. I was living in a dorm with my best friend from high school. We're gonna call her Sarah. And we were having the time of our lives. One night we were hanging out with some friends and they decided that they wanted to go to this underground house party. They said there would be a lot of hot guys there. So of course, being the naive freshman that I was, I decided YOLO, let's do it. When we got to the party, I didn't know anyone. My friend Sarah was talking to some guy, and I was just standing there awkwardly. And then this guy comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, you want to go make out in the bedroom?" And I was like, okay. And we went into this room and we started making out. But he was super aggressive and it was not hot at all. And I pushed him off and I was like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. And he was like, "Are you sure? Because I'm not done yet." And he started getting really creepy. And I got really scared. Because he was super strong and I couldn't push him off. And then he took his shirt off and he was covered in these weird scars. And I freaked out and I started screaming and then he slapped me and he was like, "Shut up, you bitch." And I was like, "Help. Somebody, please help me." And then he covered my mouth with his hand and he was like, "No one can hear you. You're all alone." And then he started choking me. And then I blacked out. The next thing I remember is waking up in the bathroom and puking my guts out. And then I remember Sarah finding me and her screaming at this guy. And then we both ran away. We never told the police what happened because I was too scared. And I didn't think that anyone would believe me. And I never told my parents either. I was just so ashamed and embarrassed that I had been taken advantage of. I didn't go back to that party and I didn't see that guy again. But I've been having panic attacks ever since. And I'm still super anxious around guys. I don't know why I'm telling you all of this. I guess I just needed to get it off my chest. Maybe by sharing my story, other girls will be more aware and careful when they're hooking up with strangers. I know that this story is kind of different from the usual stuff you post. But I thought it would be nice to have a platform to share my story and maybe help other girls avoid my mistakes. Yeah. I'm sorry if this was a little bit too dark for your channel, but I just wanted to share my story. I hope you understand. Bye.